She's just a girl and she's on fire, hotter than a fantasy, lonely like a highway. She's living in a world and it's on fire, feel like a catastrophe, but she knows she can fly away. She's got both feet on the ground and she's not burning down. She's got her head in the clouds and she's not backing down. This girl is on fire. This girl is on fire. She's just
Good afternoon, everyone. My name and welcome to our United We's Appointments Project. My name is Wendy Doyle, and I'm honored to serve as the President and CEO of United We, which stands for United Women's Empowerment. The United We singers that you just heard used their voices for the very first time in that performance. So they knew the song, but they came together collectively to perform it for an event that we hosted. And that is an example of what we're trying to accomplish today, is a group of women who may not know one another, coming from unique backgrounds, but using your voice for the common good of everyone. A couple of housekeeping items. First, please mute your microphones throughout today's presentation. In an effort to get to know one another too, we'd like for you to introduce yourselves by dropping your name in the chat bubble and the organization that you represent if you're with someone. Also, we will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but don't let that deter you from dropping a question in the chat box during the presentation. We'll review those at the end. For today's presentation, I have the honor of introducing this distinguished panel that will be joining us today, beginning with Jamie Isley, who is the Communication and Marketing Manager for Leadership Metro Richmond. Also joining us from the City of Richmond is Joyce Davis, and she is serving as the Interim Council Chief of Staff. Also is Ricky Taylor, and Ricky is joining us who is an appointee that will be sharing about her experience by serving. And then also joining me is my colleague, Robert Galinsky, who is the National Appointments Project Director. So first, I'd like to introduce Jamie with Joyce Davis, who is with the City of Richmond. So Joyce.
Hi, good evening. Would you like me to give my 2-minute or 1-minute speech now? Wendy, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Joyce.
okay.
I was just asking for direction. Would you like for me to give a 1-minute intro?
Please, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session. I look forward to it. I was a part of one a couple of months ago. And just a little bit about myself. I serve now as the Interim Council Chief of Staff, which is staff to Richmond City Council. As a part of that process, we look forward to the opportunity to work with volunteers and persons from the community like yourself to enhance the services and engage with us by providing your experiential base to our commissions and to committees. And so I look forward to this webinar with you to answer any questions, to tell you anything you would like to know about becoming a commission member and serving on our committees, and any information about civic engagement. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joyce. And if you are just joining us, we are introducing ourselves by dropping our name and our organization in the chat box. So welcome. And now I'd like to introduce Jamie Isley with the Leadership Metro Richmond to say a few words. So welcome, Jamie, and take it away.
Thank you, Wendy. Hello, I'm Jamie Isley. I'm with LMR for doing communications and marketing. And like to thank you all for joining us today to learn more about the Appointments Project. Our president and CEO, Myra Goodman-Smith, was not able to make it today, and she extends her apologies. Leadership Metro Richmond is our region's community leadership development and engagement organization. We inspire diversity and inclusion at solution building tables, and we believe that different ideas and perspectives and lived experiences need to be present. Ideas come from different corners of the room. Our mission is to strengthen our region by connecting and preparing diverse community leaders to serve. We are honored to partner with United We, the National League of Cities, and the City of Richmond to increase the diversity and perspectives on civic boards and commissions. This wasn't a far reach for our engagement work. For 6 years, LMR has been working to increase the diversity and inclusion of nonprofit boards in our region with programs to connect residents to mission-driven organizations for possible board service. Once again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the city for inviting LMR to the table, and to United We, the National League of Cities, and tonight's presenters, and we appreciate you sharing your time with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you to Jamie and Myra both for their leadership and for their tremendous support of the Appointments Project and helping share awareness about this opportunity. So we appreciate our partnership. I'd like to just share a little bit about United We before we turn to the Appointments Project. And we are a 31-year-old organization working to advance all women's economic and civic leadership. It's a tremendous team effort, and it takes partners like the Leadership Metro Richmond and the City of Richmond for us to be able to achieve and make an impact with our work. We work to unite people around economic development policy issues in a nonpartisan manner to empower women and their families. Our priorities have ranged from paid family and medical leave to pay equity, and now elevating since the pandemic, certainly childcare barriers, just to name a few of our policy priorities. We first and foremost, as a foundation, invest in evidence-based research. We do that quantitatively and qualitatively. Then we use the research to identify solutions and then get to work to get results. Bottom line, women's experiences and voices must help shape policy solutions and drive systemic change. Representation matters, which is why you are here today to learn more about the Appointments Project. Some background, this is an example of our work. It's an evidence-based, research-driven program. We identified an innovative solutions and then have piloted. After 8 years, it has grown into what it is today. To tell us more, I'm going to turn to my colleague, Robert Glinsky, who is our National Appointments Project Director. Robert, take it away.
Thanks, Wendy. And it's great to be with all of you today, and really excited to again share the Appointments Project specifically with Richmond. And you know, really the bottom line today is to raise awareness about these opportunities for women to get more involved in civic leadership in Richmond. And as Wendy said, the Appointments Project actually began based off of research. We're a research-based organization, and in 2014, we commissioned the University of Kansas to really ask women why they were not more involved with civic leadership. Why were they not raising their hands for boards and commissions? And we learned several things about women's attitudes towards the civic engagement. First of all, women shared with us that they were not confident that they had the knowledge or expertise to get involved. Interesting enough, they wanted to serve, but they were not being asked. They also wanted to make sure that if they were going to serve, give their time, that their time was going to be used very efficiently. And last but not least, a real key driver of an insight from this research was the fact that women want the support of other women. They want to see how other women have been successful doing this. They want a sense of belonging. So that's a very important part of what we learned about the Appointments Project. And that was really the creation of the Appointments Project based on our research in 2014. But we didn't stop there. We decided in 2019, once the program had been up and running for about 5 years, well, what were the benefits of more women actually serving on these boards and commissions? So this time we went to the University of Missouri, And we did some research in partnership with them to see what were the benefits when more women serve and increased participation of women on these boards and commissions. Number one, what they learned was there was an increase in public trust in government. Number two, it boosts efficiencies of these boards and commissions, which we were not surprised because we heard about that in 2014, that women wanted to make sure that the time was going to be used very efficiently. And last but not least, and probably most importantly, it improves the lives of all residents. When there's gender parity, women and their family, but the whole community improves. So this is the research that has really driven the appointments project. If we go to the next slide, we always like to just take a quick glance at nationwide. We're often asked, what is the level of women's participation when it comes to elected office? And again, I want to share this as elected office data from Rutgers University Center for American Women in Politics. They've been tracking this for a long time, and there's some good news and some not so good news here. Again, when it comes to women serving as an elected official, this is the most women that have ever served in the U.S. Congress. That is both in relationship to the House and the Senate combined. However, as you can see, only 50 of the 535 positions are women of color. So although there is progress being made, there's still a lot of room and a lot of areas that we still need to improve, particularly as it comes to women of color. That gives you a quick glimpse of what it looks like across the nation with elected office. On this next slide, you'll see that what we're talking about today is civic leadership in Richmond, Virginia. And United We is very supportive of all initiatives to get more women in corporate board positions, private boards, nonprofit boards. But what we're going to talk about today and the effort in Richmond with the Appointments Project is around government and public boards and commissions. These are volunteer positions, typically appointed by a mayor, city council, or possibly a city staffer. These positions are very critical because this is what makes Richmond run every day. This is what makes your city great. And we love the quote that came out of the Callahan research, and this goes back a ways, but we think it still really applies. From 2007, the research from Callahan pointed out that the appointed boards and commissions at these local levels really represent the primary means for citizen participation in city governance. So it's critical that these positions are representative of the community. And I'm very happy to tell you, and very proud actually, of the success we've had today. On this next slide, you can see that we have facilitated over 180 appointments at the city, county, and state level, and we're still counting. So a lot of momentum, and we're going to keep the momentum going. Also, we've had a real focus, like many cities, to really increase women of color. When you look specifically at the registrants in the Appointments Project, 37% of them identify as women of color, and of the appointees, 16% identify as women of color. So we're very happy with our success to date. We've elevated women's voices, we've removed barriers, we've increased women's civic leadership, and we believe we've been part of getting more women involved to improve the cities that they reside in. Our overall goal is to accelerate our growth, build upon our successes and our results as we expand this program nationwide. Today, I just wanted to show you a quick glimpse of exactly what we're going to be covering. First of all, there's 4 things we're going to get to in a little bit more detail in the future. Number one, we're going to talk about how you can register with the Appointments Project and be kept up to date on all the activities we have going on. Number 2, we're going to actually take you step by step through the actual application process in the city of Richmond. Third thing, we're going to show you how to stay connected and how we can support your journey through civic leadership. And last but not least, we know it's important to celebrate. Women want to see other women be successful. We take a portion of our work and make sure that we celebrate that also. But before we get to that part of the presentation, I want to say that we're very fortunate today to have Ricky Taylor join us. Ricky is well known in Richmond. She's an educator, a faith leader. She's an expert when it comes to African American history. and she's also a human rights commissioner. And Ricky, I think I need to apologize. I think you're the chair. So scratch out appointee. I think you're the chair of this. So congratulations on that. Ricky was critical in getting the Human Rights Commission established in Richmond. Her work, along with the work of the City Council in Richmond, led to the creation of this very important commission in 2018. Ricky's a graduate of VCU with a Bachelor of Arts degree in African American Black Studies, and then furthered her education with a master's in Education Policy and Leadership from American University. Ricky, we'd love to hear your story. You've got the floor, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Robert, for that excellent introduction. And thank you to everyone on the call. I'm so glad that you're here with us this evening. This is such an awesome opportunity to hear from some great women and Robert this evening on the call. Again, my name is Ricky Taylor. It's Rikia Taylor, but I go by Ricky. I want to go ahead and also state in advance that I am the Student Leadership and Greek Life Coordinator at Virginia Union University. My office is located in the game room, and so I may have a student or two. Hopefully I don't pop in, but just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. So yes, I am the chairperson for the City of Richmond's Human Rights Commission, and sharing my experience with you all this evening. It has been quite a journey. So let me just first start by saying that the Human Rights Commission is, our goal is to really make sure that we have a safe space in the city for people to share their experiences and file complaints if they feel as though their human rights have been violated. And we honor what's the protected classes in the Virginia State Code of Human Rights. And so we serve as a body with three primary functions. The first is being an investigative body. And so when folks put in complaints, we have the ability to investigate those complaints and seek legal action if need be. And so we have a great partnership with the State Attorney General's office. Our second function is serving as a resource broker. And so if there's ever someone that comes to us and their complaint does not fall within our ordained duties, then we want to make sure that we direct them to the right place. And so we're very intentional about staying connected to other organizations in the community so that we can provide those resources to everyone that comes into our office. And then finally, but certainly not least, we are an educative body. And so I like to describe it as a bridge builder between city leadership and the community. And so anytime that there is an important conversation that needs to happen, we are positioned to facilitate those tough conversations between city leadership and community members. And so that's just a brief description of what the City of Richmond Human Rights Commission, what we do. And then as far as my experience, it actually began in high school. And so I'm from Newport News, Virginia, and I was a youth member on the Human Rights Commission in Newport News from my sophomore year of high school all the way to my senior year of high school. And so when moving to Richmond, Virginia, I, wanted to join Richmond's Human Rights Commission to really continue that work that I had an opportunity to do when I was in high school. And I quickly learned that the state capitol, the former capital of the Confederacy, had no place for people to go. They felt as though their human rights had been violated. And so that was a huge concern for me. And so you fast forward to the summer of 2016, and this was around the time of the unfortunate killing of Philando Castile. My peers and I had been, having conversations about what we could do to really make a difference in our community. And we had been planning protests. And I remember saying to them, hey, y'all, there's going to be a community cookout at the Brooklyn Park Festival this weekend. And there's going to be a lot of city council members there. I say we take our work to the festival and, really make our point to be heard. And so some of us, went and protested, and then some of us ended up going to the festival. And it was at the festival that I met my city council person, Councilwoman Ellen Robertson of the 6th District. And I went up to her And I said, Councilwoman Robertson, did you know that the state capitol and the former capital of the Confederacy does not have a human rights commission? And she looked at me and said, young lady, meet me in my office on Monday. And so I remember just spending that whole weekend, like pulling together some talking points and some research, because I kind of felt like, you know, the energy that I came with, I needed to have some research, some evidence to back it up. And so on that Monday, we had an incredible meeting, and we left with the goal of establishing a task force to do the research to establish the Human Rights Commission. And so I spent about 2 years with an incredible team on a task force. Joyce Davis, who's on the call, assisted us in that work. And I had the opportunity to chair that task force. And we spent about 2 years doing research across the state. We also did research across the country. And our goals in the research was to really find out, one, does Richmond need a Human Rights Commission, right? It's very easy for someone that's not from the community to come in and say what they think is needed, but does Richmond need, and do they even want a Human Rights Commission? And so we conducted 2 public forums, and we also conducted a citywide survey where we were able to collect data from the people who live in Richmond. And then we also did some research across the state. We looked at other commissions. We did a series of focus groups and interviews with the different commissions across the state. And we also looked at a few commissions that were across the country. And in our research, we determined that, yes, Richmond needed a Human Rights Commission. And we were also able to recommend to City Council and the mayor's office what the commission should look like if it came to Richmond. And so our research really pulled from the community of Charlottesville, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, and Virginia Beach, Virginia. And so those 3 commissions really served as a foundation and model for what the City of Richmond Human Rights Commission should look like. And so council graciously accepted our proposal. And in June of 2018, City of Richmond officially had a Human Rights Commission. In October of 2018, 13 members were appointed, 11 adults and 2 youth members. And in January of 2019, we had our first meeting. And so, yes, my goal in making sure that the commission established, of course, was its mission to make sure that, one, people had a place to go if their human rights were violated, but also people had an opportunity to serve their community in that capacity. So that was my first goal. My second goal in making sure that the commission was established, especially as chair. So when the commission was established, the members voted me in as chair. And my goal as chair over the past few years has really been to make sure that the commission gets to a place where it's sustainable past my tenure. And so, you know, it's really easy to get these things started, but the work is hard. You know, it's really hard work, and it's important work. And so really making sure the commission was in a place where it could sustain itself, meaning making sure that we had bylaws, making sure that we had a budget, making sure that we had a staff person. When we started, it was from scratch, you all, it was from scratch, okay? And so we really had to work hard as a team to make sure, and we're still working really hard as a team to make sure that we have those resources and tools to make sure that we're able to sustain. And then it was also really important for me to make sure that youth could serve on the commission. That was a really big push. I remember telling Joyce, it can't work if we're not able to have youth members appointed. And that really just came from a place of knowing my experience as a youth member on the commission and how it's impacted my life, not only personally, but my leadership journey, and also how it has influenced me to be a servant to my community. And I wanted to make sure that the students in Richmond had an opportunity to serve their community in that same way. We did have some challenges, Again, as I mentioned, the commission started from scratch. And so, we did not have bylaws, which means we had no governing documents, other than our ordinance. We did not have a budget. And so, when it came down to all these great ideas that we had about this change we wanted to implement, we needed to make sure we had the money to do so. And then we also wanted to make sure that we got the word out there, that people were aware of this amazing resource that was available to them. And that comes with making sure that we have the staff support to do so from the city. And so those are some of the things that we had challenges with, and you know, it's 2022 and we're still working through those challenges. And you know, some of the lessons that I learned during my experience of being appointed as a commissioner was knowing my role and playing it well. And so, you know, I started this story by sharing that, you know, this was a summer of protest and really wanting to make change in 2016. And so it was a very critical moment for me, and my decision to take up city leadership was, what is my role in city leadership, right? Like, what does that look like for me? Because everyone has a different role. For some people, it does look like protesting, you know, peacefully protesting and going out and making sure that, you know, your voice is heard. And I think that that's great, but it also takes some people continuing the conversation and pushing the needle forward. And so I saw my role, I saw an opportunity for me to serve in that capacity in this fight, right? And in this fight for justice. And so I'd say that was the first lesson that I learned, was really finding out what my role is in the fight for justice and knowing how to play that well. And so doing the research, making sure I had the necessary resources to succeed in that capacity. Another lesson learned was advocating for myself. You know, I know I'm giving this information to you all in 5 minutes, but in 5 years, you all, it was a challenge. And I really found myself in some situations where I really had to advocate for myself and the work of the commission, and making sure, can you all still hear me? You have to thumbs up. I got an alert that my Wi-Fi was shaky. But yeah, making sure that I had the courage to really advocate for myself through those different challenges. You know, there were some people that were not in support of Richmond having a Human Rights Commission. There were some people that were not pleased with the time that it has taken to really get things pushed off the ground. And so I really had to, you know, gain the courage to know that, you know, none of it was personal, you know, and that really I had to make sure that I was grounded in my mission in serving on this commission. And that really kept me grounded in my courage throughout this whole experience. And then also making sure that you have a circle of support. If you are someone that is interested in going into city leadership, you need a circle of support. I definitely had to make sure that I had some friends. Joyce Davis, who's on the call, and Jamie Isley have been just a complete blessing to my life during this experience. You know, anytime I had a question that I needed an answer to, you know, they worked for the city. And so this was all new to me. I'm a community servant. This is a volunteer position. And so I didn't know, you know, especially when media news outlets are reaching out to you and you're representing the city, you know, just making sure that, I know that in the research that you all mentioned earlier, that some women were reported that just not knowing the knowledge or being worried about not having enough expertise, that is a real concern. And, you know, I think I had been 21 at the time that I was working on getting the commission established. And so I was, you know, definitely had fears of being too young. Not, you know, I'm leading a board of 13 people who have way more, you know, work experience and service experience. So how do I do this? And making sure that I had that community of support really assisted me during those fears of not having enough knowledge or not having enough expertise. And then finally, I just wanted to share with you all, if you're someone asking, you know, is this opportunity right for me? I'm aware of a board and commission in my community, and I really want to serve. I just don't know if it's right. The advice that I'd have for you is to first do your research. Okay, know what you're getting yourself into. You know, do research on what that board and commission has done over the past few years. What is in their governing documents? What is their mission? And is the work that they're doing aligned with their commission? Make sure that the mission is clear and that they have an objective. Make sure that the commission has the tools that they need to succeed, such as staff support, a budget, and bylaws. And if they don't, you have to ask yourself, is this the right opportunity for me? And if that answer is yes, just know that you're making a big commitment to put in some hard work. Okay, but I know that you all can do it, right? And so, you know, I don't mean to scare anyone. This is some fun work. Okay, this is really great work. The work is fun despite the challenges. And I think, you know, most of all, it's just all about remembering who it is that you're serving and the mission that you're seeking to accomplish. And so that's my little spiel. That's all that I have. And, you know, any questions that you all may have, I think we're going to have a question and answer portion. Okay, excellent. So I'd love to answer any questions that you all might have. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening and to hear my experience. I'm going to pass it back over to Robert. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Ricky. That was very insightful, inspirational, and your experiences and background and your advice was just tremendous. So Ricky, thank you for sharing that. And Ricky's right, we're going to have a Q&A when we go through a little bit more of the presentation. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll also open up the line so you can actually ask questions. But we've got a great panel to answer any questions that might come up during the rest of our presentation or what you might have seen earlier. But, you know, from this point on, we really want to talk about the process of the next steps you need to take. But we really want to focus on the fact that today's webinar is an invitation to you to get involved, to serve. We believe you're ready, you're qualified to apply. And we want you to first, as next step you would take is to actually register with the Appointments Project. And we often ask, well, why would I join the Appointments Project? One of the big advantages with the Appointments Project is the connection to the overall work of our organization that Wendy referred to. And it's the empowerment of women. And you will get up to date on the activities and policies that impact the women's issues. We do a lot of trainings, opportunities. We share a lot of research. Our registrants also get invited to the Wall Street Journal's women's events. We also do a number of events that we invite our registrants too. We're going to be doing a lot of work in childcare. So if that's something that you're passionate about, you're going to see a lot of work through your registration through the Appointments Project. I will tell you also that when you register with the Appointments Project, it's a simple application. There's 3 simple parts. We're going to ask you about your work professional background, your areas of interest, and what boards and commissions you might be interested in serving on. We're going to ask a little bit about your specific skills and experiences, and that's it. It's a very simple application. We like to have the application online in case someone from the city would call us and you would need us to support you or advocate for your application. We will have that information we can share with them. Also, a very important part of that is actually to include your resume. So don't forget to do that. As you can see from this slide, once you register with the Appointments Project, we're going to send you our candidate toolkit. It's really a nice summary of what we've talked about today. It takes you through the process, the typical process of being appointed. There's a FAQ of the commonly asked questions. And last but not least, we share a little bit of our research, but just a real nice toolkit of what we talked about today. After you do that, and I tell you that Ricky hit it on the head, you need to do your research. Because your next step now is to really to look into boards and commissions in Richmond. I can tell you, we work with a lot of cities. Richmond has a very easy, seamless, easy to use website. I recommend starting right here at the boards and commissions. You can see it will take you through this web page here, will take you through everything you want to know. It will list the boards and commissions. It will outline the process. There's a calendar of events on this page. It also links you to the application. It shows some annual reports that different boards might do. And you can sign up also on this page to be in the distribution list from Richmond City Clerk. And they will update you on all the various possible opportunities. And again, an FAQ. Another really nice site is under the City Clerk's office. And they outline all the boards and commissions here, and you can actually go and look at the vacancies. So if you're interested in specific boards and commissions to bring your skills and your qualifications to specific areas of your interest, you can do that from this very simple page. And again, the city clerk is offering to support your application, let them know of your interest, email them and let them know what you're interested in. After you do that and you identify that you want the boards and commissions you're interested in serving on, you do need to apply. This is a very important part of the process. I think one time, one of the city clerks we worked with said, look at this as a job application. I can tell you it's a lot simpler than a job application, but it is that important. You'll need to, Richmond is going to ask you for your biographic information, employer professional information, what your qualifications and educational background are. They're also going to ask you if you've ever served on a board and commission before. You do not need to serve on a board and commission. It's just something they would like to know. They're going to ask what your other areas, community involvement and service. And again, the beloved request to attach your resume. So make sure you attach your resume to do that. But you have to go through this process. I want to give a shout out to Joyce, because before Joyce and working with the Appointments Project, you cannot do this online. So you can now actually complete it and submit it online. And we need to really give Joyce a round of applause for that. So Joyce, thank you for that work. Once you've gone through and made your application, it's still a good time for you to review the toolkit and sit down with some of your mentors and some of your friends and gain some of their insights and support. It's not unusual that some of the areas that you might be interested in serving might not have any vacancies. So they might give you some other areas where you can apply and look at other opportunities. We also ask you to stay connected to the appointment staff team here. We've got a great team. We're here to advocate. There are a lot of questions that come along the way. We're here and we can answer any of those. And if we don't have the answer, we can definitely connect you with the city of Richmond to get those answers for you. I do also just want to remind everyone, as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, we advocate for all women in the Appointments Project. However, we're not the ones making the final selection for the appointment. The appointment is usually made by the mayor, the city council, or sometimes a city staffer. So keep in mind, we're here to advocate, but that final decision is actually going to be probably done by somebody in an elected position in Richmond, Virginia. We also talked a little bit about the importance of celebrating. Once you get that first appointment, let us know. We'll push out this exciting news through our newsletter, our social channels, and our website, and we'll have you amplify it across your own social channels. So it's really important. Go back to that research that we shared from 2014. Women want to see other women be successful, and they want to learn how they did that. So it's important that we all celebrate together. So once you get that appointment, don't hesitate to scream at us, and we'll create a congratulations and shoot it out across all of our social channels. In closing, I do want to share with you some insights we've received from women who have worked with us that have shared their experiences of being an appointee. Number one question is, what's in it for the women who apply and get selected? Ricky addressed this. It's leadership growth opportunities. It's career and personal growth opportunities. It really is an opportunity to develop more skills you might not get the opportunity to do by not being involved. We also, you can broaden your personal and professional network. We hear that quite a bit, but probably most important, and the reasons why you want to serve, is you're going to be able to make a measurable impact in your community, which gets us to the last round of benefits, which we call, on the next slide here, the community benefits. Those community benefits are truly, we know that when women are involved, it improves decision-making across the boards and commissions. It increases and improves bipartisanship. We've learned from our research, and other research points out, that women tend to gravitate to more issues that men might not gravitate or support, such as family leave, equal pay. Also, the fact of childcare, which is a very hot topic right now. And these are, we have learned through research, women are going to focus on these very important matters. And last but not least, we know that diversity on these boards and commissions truly drives public trust. The bottom line here is, we wanted to bring the Appointments Project to Richmond to really bring our expertise, and really make sure that boards and commissions have gender parity and are reflective of the community, because we know boards and commissions reflect the community, they're going to make the best decisions for that community. With that, a last request to stay connected to the Appointments Project and United We. We've got a good amount of time for questions, and we'd love to open it up. I know Jamie, Joyce, and Ricky are here to do that. And Wendy, I want to see if we've received any questions through the chat.
We have, and pretty active here. So thanks everyone for your questions. And Robert, thank you for the overview. So our first question is from Amber, and her question is, with the limited time, energy, resources we all have, what would you say are the pros and cons of city-county appointments as compared to nonprofit board service? It's a great question. And Robert, maybe turn to you. I think you just covered some of that with the personal and community benefits, but anything else to add?
No, I think the one thing that we also learned that we don't have on that slide, besides all those tremendous benefits, is with more women serving, there has also been, according to Accenture's research, there's actually been improvement in innovation. So there's a lot of learning opportunities. I agree, you're going to have to carve out the time, you're going to have to find that opportunity to make it work for you. However, there's tremendous benefits on the other side. But I'd love to hear from Ricky on that, if you have a particular point of view.
Yes, so I've actually never served on a nonprofit board, but I do have experience working nonprofit and interacting with our board. I'd say the biggest difference definitely comes down to the budget. And so, with nonprofit budget, most of it is from giving. And so it's very specific as to what you can do with those funds. And so when we talk about resources and what those limits are, I say that that's the biggest difference compared to serving on a city board and commission. You are given a set, most boards and commissions are given a set amount of money. But if you're fortunate enough to be a board or commission that has a set amount of money from the city, your board has the ability to decide what that money goes towards. So you can make your budget as a body and vote on it, and you can decide, what you want that money to go towards, whether it's a staff person, maybe it's a flagship event that you all host every year, maybe it goes towards training. Some boards and commissions across the country have even, I know during the pandemic, has even set it up to where they start to pay their commissioners, a stipend for their service. And so I'd say that that's the biggest difference, is when it comes down to the budget. And then in terms of pros and cons, again, pros are, both opportunities, you have a chance to, serve your community and serve in some way. You get those benefits of leadership development, professional development, and having your network extended. And then I'd say that the cons likely comes with, any kind of, I think the cons are challenges that you face when you are a member of any organization. That could be membership retention, that could be engagement, that could be awareness, right? And so I'd say that those are the biggest things that come to mind.
Great. Thank you for that, Ricky. We also had a question from Shannon, and Joyce, I think this is going to be one you're going to be able to answer. Shannon shares that she's eager to develop and execute in the realm of homelessness and mental health. And she just didn't know if Richmond has a board that works in this and supports this area. She also has some other questions regarding that, but Joyce, would love to hear your input on that when it comes specifically to anything that might be in Richmond that would address this homelessness and mental health.
Sure. Can you repeat the question that Rakia answered so that I can add to it? I just want to make sure I add something to what she was talking about.
The question for
the last question, I got this one. I just wanted to add to the last, so I wanted to make sure.
That'd be great. With limited time, energy, and resources we all have, what would you say are the pros and cons of city county appointments as compared to nonprofit board service?
Okay. And I just want to say the one thing and I think Kia touched on it, but typically when you get on a nonprofit board, they may offer the opportunity for you to come in and only say sit around the table. But I do think that there are opportunities where you are actually pushing up your sleeve and offering your specialized skills. So that's definitely one of the benefits. But one of the problems with some of the city boards, sometimes the challenge, and it might be just, are they using your time efficiently? And is this something that's worthwhile after you actually get on the board? The benefit obviously is offering your specialized skills and your education, et cetera, but there are some downsides too. And I say all of that as my segue into this next question. We do have a social services advisory board, and with the social services advisory board, it tends to deal with specific issues that involves juveniles, either who are involved with the correctional system or who are involved with social services. And so homelessness can be a part of that. And Jamie may have to help me out some. Y'all heard them say that Jamie worked here before. So she was our board administrator. But within the community, there is the homelessness continuum. And oftentimes that consists of many of just staff persons, but there are opportunities for our human services board, not the one that Lakia was talking about, the human rights, but human services, they can take any type of recommendations from volunteers or committee and commission members.
Jamie, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. There's also the Richmond Behavioral Health Authority. I'm not certain if they have any vacancies at this time, but they work, if you live in Richmond or work in Richmond, you might have heard of them. It is a mental health specific board, and they run that authority. So if you have some interest in that, that would be a board for that. And then there's the Maggie Walker Initiative Citizens Advisory Board, and they might touch on homelessness and affordable housing within that board if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, and adding to that, Jamie, thank you for reminding me of the Maggie Walker. Again, some of these particular boards have a limited number of seats available for a person to participate in various capacities. And the Maggie Walker board that she was talking about, it focuses on community wealth building, and a lot of their resources are dedicated to more workforce. But in each of those that have been mentioned, there might be a pocket of persons who are homeless. But there was a board in my role as council policy analyst. Rakia talked about some of what I tried to do with human rights. That's a goal and a responsibility that I've had in trying to create various boards. And one of them was to actually have one that's dedicated for homelessness advisory services. We've improved with staff at this point to provide those particular services. But at one point, because we didn't have dedicated staff who were working on that issue, I actually wrote up a proposal for a homelessness advisory board, which would have been comprised of persons from the outside. And it's still on my drive. So, I mean, there's still probably a need, but they've worked around that trying to get housing and services.
That's great. And thank you. And Jamie and Joyce, this question's going to come to you too. And this is from Cassandra. She's asking, what is typically the average time from application submission until a decision on appointment or not is made? And Jamie and Joyce too, if you can also talk about the cutoffs. I know in Richmond you have specific cutoffs like of July for the September applications and things like that. So share that with the group, that'd be great too.
Jamie, I'm gonna answer the easy part of it, and then I'll let you talk about maybe the time frame, because I know you know it more succinctly. But one of the things that we do is, and I think Robert had this, the Office of the City Clerk, they will regularly post board vacancies to the clerk's website on the 15th of the month of January, April, July, and then October. And following that sort of time frame, when the closing ends, then those applications will be screened and put forth before council. And it will go through the cycle of the committee. The committee will hear the persons who have applied. And at that point, once that detailed information has been brought forth about the individuals, council and committee can forward on those applications, but they might stop it and do an interview or questionnaire, depending upon how many folks are applying, or in the case that Jamie mentioned earlier about RBHA, again, looking for those specialized skills, trying to make a determination of the best person for the one vacancy that they have, and that they have several experienced individuals who they're interested in. So that's a part of the process as well. And Jamie, I'll just let you kind of break it down about how much time.
Okay, so the time frame, it can vary, like Joyce said, depending on if the process is paused, so to speak, in committee. And a lot of times, if the board is a board that I call like a heavier board, it has more responsibility, like your planning commission or RBHA, something of that nature, maybe RHA. Those types of boards typically require a little more closer look at applications and might require interviews or questionnaires, like she mentioned. The shortest amount of time would be around 3 or 4 months, depending, and then the longest amount of time, maybe 6 months or so, depending. That's about how it ranges, but typically it's going to be about 3 or 4 months, because it has to go through committee and then through the full council at those formal council meetings. And once that occurs and they voted, then you're appointed and you're sworn in and all that jazz.
Thank you, Joyce and Jamie. And one thing I would say from our experience working with so many different cities, it's something too that it might take a little longer than you expect, and you might not find a vacancy on the plate on your number one area you'd like to work. So we strongly encourage, look for more than just 1 or 2 boards and commissions. If you believe we believe if you feel like your qualifications meet the criteria and it's your areas of interest, we encourage you to submit more than 1 application. So because it does take a time, a lot of it is driven by vacancies. So we always do need to keep that in mind.
Robert, can I actually
sure,
I add to
please.
No, you made an excellent point. My rule of thumb is 3 when it comes to applying to a board and commission. Choose your top 3, and that's normally the rule of thumb.
That's awesome. Now I've got a new rule of thumb, so thank you.
Could I tack on to the end of that, Rakia, and say it's really helpful for the clerk's office if you are to email them and let them know what those top 3 or 4 boards that you applied for are, so that they can let the council know how you rank them. That's helpful.
That's great. Ricky also answered a question in the chat about geographic limitations, and she called out that you can find that on many of the boards and commissions on the website. So thank you for that, Ricky. I want to follow back up with something Ricky shared. It's a question we get quite often, and Ricky categorized it as the circle of support. And I would love to hear from the panel, Jamie, Ricky, and also Joyce, around this circle of support. We often hear that getting support from other women, knowing people maybe on the board, what it takes to really create awareness that you're very interested in serving. So I'd love to hear Ricky and Jamie and Joyce, any insights you might have about what we're going to term as Ricky's circle of support. So Ricky, you got it first.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. I didn't know originally that Jamie and Joyce were going to be on this call. And so it's interesting that these were probably the two women that helped me the most during my time, along with my vice chair, Josie Mays, who was also the vice chair of the task force, as well as the commission. So yes, making sure that you have a circle of support, not just women, but, people who identify, as different genders, making sure that you have someone that you can ask questions to, also someone that can be intentional about the spaces that you're in with the city as well. Meaning, in human services, the head of human services, I was really intentional about making sure that, I was tapped in and was aware of any events that they had going on. And that was an opportunity for me to go and network. I was very clear, hey, Reggie, if there's ever something going on in the city where you feel, the commission could be a benefit, making sure that I, really put myself out there in that way, attending city council meetings and making sure that you're up to date with what's going on, not only just with your board and commission, but with, your city. And then also making sure that you remind, it was really important. And I remember this just in my conversations with Joyce and Jamie, making sure that I reminded the city that this board not only is here to serve the community, but it's also an asset to the city. So when things are happening like protests in summer of 2020, and it's time to sit all of the young leaders down in the community and have these conversations, reminding the mayor, hey, we are here to serve you. We are here to, really help facilitate these conversations. And, this is how we can be a benefit and an asset to the city. And so I'd say that these women were very important in my experience, as well as another woman that works for the city. Her name is Osita, who was just incredible. The three of them were really instrumental in keeping me focused in the mission and making sure that I was in the right room with the right people, having all of the right intentional conversations.
Great. Jamie, would you like to add to that, or Joyce?
I can add. Jamie, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joyce, you got it.
Well, I would definitely ask you to help me, okay? I want to pick up on some things that Rakia said. Thank you very much for all the compliments, Rakia. Always good to know that people are listening. But yeah, everything that Rakia said, ditto to it. And just adding to it, when you're attending those meetings and civic group, the one thing, or reading minutes, you're trying to pick up from those particular community engagement opportunities. What do people really want to hear? What are the issues? What are folks saying on the ground? Because you want to inform decisions that you're going to make when you get into that commission meeting. Or you want to select some of those civic groups so that you can gain experience to even place on your application. But when Rakia talked about trying to have that circle of support, conducting research can be either through your internet options or just creating a network and creating that network of persons who are going to be a resource for you. So the circle of support is not just someone who kind of steps up to the plate, but you actually seeking out individuals and cultivating a resource list. If you're a part of that board, inviting them to your meeting or calling them and getting information. She talked about how with the Human Rights Commission that we went out and it was more. She only talked about 3, but there were about 13 different places that we received information from what they were doing and completed this sort of composite. but kind of going through any kind of data that you can do like that so that it can inform your commission, and picking up people along the way who will serve as your new best friends as a part of your goal and journey. I'll stop there and just let Jamie add to what I have to say.
I definitely agree with what Joyce and Rakia have already said. I don't have too much more to add than what they did. They're very thorough, but I would say even most important than attending those city council meetings, each of the boards are assigned to a council committee, those subcommittees like education, human services, land use, finance. So whichever committee is associated with your particular board, you want to make sure you tune in on those meetings too, because they could have legislation or topics that relate to something that is specific to your particular board or commission. And oh, yep.
Can I add something to that really quick, Robert? Jamie
Sure.
just reminded me. As chair, it was very important for me to meet with every single council person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was very intentional about meeting with every single council person. The reason being, as Jamie just mentioned, your board or commission could, it sits on a committee. And so when you're submitting documents, whether it's a resolution or recommendation, and it's going through those different committees, we want to make sure that the city council members know who you are. They're familiar with your work, reminding them of your mission, reminding them, of what it is that you're trying to do. And so that's another great way to build your circle of support, is also by building and establishing a relationship with the different city council people.
Sure. And we have, we're wrapping up, and I appreciate everybody's questions, and the panel's been tremendous. We have one last question from Shirley. I just want to make sure it gets addressed. And Joyce or Jamie, if we could quickly answer, that would be great. But they want to know how to deal with concerns with conflicts of interest, if they should pop up when you're on a board or commission. So Joyce or Jamie, if one of you can address that, that'd be great.
Jamie, I'm going to start and say whatever quickly, and then if you would add to what I leave off. You want to make sure in any of these boards, especially state as well as the city, you want to think of what is either in my background or what projects, contracts am I involved in that might interfere with my participation. For example, right now, I've been offered a teaching position in September, but I had to think about, I'm a principal investigator for a grant, and there's a particular conflict that could occur because they may not follow through on something. So you really have to think through what is going on with you personally. Either it's your background, the governor's office says it quickly, anything that would embarrass the governor, but you also still have to think about anything that you think could be a conflict of interest. And if you don't know if it is, just make sure that you ask someone if it is a conflict or not. And there will be plenty of opportunities for disclosure, because what you don't want is for it to come out on the floor. And so again, Jamie, add to that, since we have to be quick in our response.
Okay, and so what Joyce said is pretty much it. I would say if you're wondering as well, there's a space on the application for conflict of interest, and if